Hello, everyone. Um, what's going on? How's everyone been? It seemed like it's been forever. Actually, it really has. You know, with the pandemic and whatnot, everyone's kind of just been finding their way, finding their footing. Me personally, I worked through the entire pandemic or whatever. Now that we're getting back to normal, things are opening up, people are getting vaccinated. It's like a weight off your shoulder almost. You know what I mean? So I'm really these last few months I've been enjoying getting back to normal life. I got vaccinated. My first dose was the end of like mid February. Second dose was mid March. So I'll say like in the time it was perfect because my birthday is April 10th. Shout out to the Aries. All the Aries who are watching, shout out to you guys. So my birthday was April 10th. So I had just hit that 4 week mark right around my birthday. I mean, really, they say 2 weeks after your second dose, you're good, just about. So at like that 3 week mark after my second dose, it was Easter weekend. So that's when I really got out there with the family. It was nice after a year of lockdown, being back around everyone. So yeah, so basically, the last few months have been great. It's been like going back to normal almost. We're not completely out the woods yet. A lot of people still aren't vaccinated. So you still have to be cautious, be mindful of who you're around and whatnot. But that's neither here nor there. That's just a little quick update. Today we're going to get into basically where we left off at. I think the last time I talked to you guys, it was probably like 2 weeks before the election. So, of course, I'm ecstatic that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won. So that's our president and vice president. It's a beautiful thing having a female vice president, a woman, a black woman. It's just amazing. And of course, being a Democrat, I'm happy that the Democratic ticket won. So that leads us to the big lie. I mean, are we at all shocked that Donald Trump didn't go down quietly? We are now, this is July, so we're 8 months removed from the election, and he still insists that he won. And if anyone who follows politics, you guys know that Hillary Clinton warned us about this all the way back in 2016. If you can recall, she said he's a sore loser, and when he loses, he'll claim it was rigged, it was fraud, and that's exactly what happened. It's almost like she had a crystal ball. I guess he's that transparent, he's that predictable that she was able to make that assessment. But out of all, like, we knew he was a liar. We knew he was a bigot. We knew that he was a misogynist. But I think the most shocking thing that came about over the course of this past year is that he's a conspiracy theorist. And a lot of his followers are conspiracy theorists. And before, I thought it was the misogyny and the bigotry that was uniting everyone together, but that was only bits and pieces. A lot of you guys are conspiracy theorists, and that's on the right and the left. So when I look at the Democrats who, who sympathize with Trump and who, always found a way to justify some of his bullshit, the common denominator were the conspiracy theories, the paranoia. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's what how he relates. He's speaking the language of a lot of people that is not a right or a left, Democrat, Republican thing. It's a whole alternative reality that you people live in, and it's sad. It's sad. The amount of people who believe that fraud happened when it didn't just is mind-boggling. Let's put it this way: if the election was rigged, the election was a fraud, how come they're only disputing the losses, not the wins? They gain Senate seats, they gain congressional seats, they gain state legislators, governorships. None of that is in dispute. That was all fair and square, that was all real. But the places that they lost, the states that Joe Biden carried, are fraud. Make that make sense. Just a little logic for you guys. Because we're not going to spend a lot of time on this topic for the simple fact that it's just pure logic. You can't call something a fraud when it doesn't go your way. You can't have it both ways. If it was a fraud, if it was rigged, then throw the whole election out. Throw all the results out. Not, oh, well, the seats that we won that went our way, that was fine. There was no fraud there. But when we lost, it was fraud. No, it doesn't work like that. The election is over. He lost fair and square by a landslide, honestly. Because if you look at the Electoral College, it mirrored that of 2016, the one that he took. And that wasn't, they weren't arguing against that. And they called that a landslide, but it went the other way. So this is a landslide. He lost. It's over. He's not the president. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are the president and vice president. Get over it. Too bad. Move on. So from there we go to the whole voting rights issue. After the big lie, and when Joe Biden called it the big lie, I mean, I laughed so hard because it was just funny, because a lot of people thought, that he had lost a step, he was too old and blah, blah, blah. But he still got it. And it's the perfect description, the big lie. So after the big lie, we're basically going back in time. And this was something that I saw coming for a while, that a lot of protections and rights will be rolled back, and we're seeing it happen for us. That was part of them packing the court. Like, there's a big, they keep talking about Democrats want to pack the court. Republicans have already packed the court. The court is packed already. It's packed and it's stacked to the right. And you're seeing things roll back, protections. I mean, the Voting Rights Act, something that you thought was sacred, set in stone, this is being dismantled bit by bit. Next they're trying to target abortion rights, and that's a part of women's rights, if you think about it. So all of these things that we saw coming are actually coming, and you guys still don't get it. People still don't vote. There still were turnout issues in a lot of places. A lot of places had great turnout, but really the way the only solution to the problem is to vote. Like, that's the bottom line. All of this can be, you have to counteract these type of things. So with them trying to restrict access to the ballot, trying to get people not to vote. You have to just show up in droves and vote. You know, they can't do nothing about that. They can say, well, we want ID for mail-in votes and blah, 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 this and that. Go in person and vote. Go get your ID, because honestly, even without it being an election, I really don't understand. I never knew it was so many people who were walking around without ID. I mean, do y'all go out? Do y'all travel? You know, you don't get carded when you go buy liquor. Like, why are so many people walking around without identification? It's not okay. I mean, that's something that you should have. That's a basic thing. Like this, when I turned 16, I was so excited to get my state identification. I mean, it was just like a rite of passage. So it blows my mind that so many people don't have ID. You know, so go get ID. If you don't have ID, get ID, and make sure you register to vote. Make sure you go vote, because the fight has just begun. Like I said, a lot of these things that are happening, you can only counteract by voting, because winning the White House was only half the battle. People forget that the president signs the laws. Congress is who writes the laws. So how everyone said, Obama did nothing for people, for black people, blah, blah, blah. The president only has so much power. The Congress is where the power lies. So it doesn't matter who you vote as president. If you don't have the right people in Congress who are getting things done, who are writing the proper bills, who are feeling your pain and trying to help you out, then it's all for nothing. It's just basically for show, So get out and vote. We need the Senate. We need the House. We have the House already, but it's just a tiny, majority. Like, it's very slim. So 2022, get out and vote. And it matters. I mean, if you thought it didn't matter, just look around at what's happening. People get easily distracted. The first distraction was the whole uprising last year with George Floyd and the riots and everything, and the protests. But then that died down. People started getting, unemployment and PPP and all types of things. And they kind of got sidetracked and kind of took their eyes off the ball. And then fast forward to January. Now, keep in mind, speaking of George Floyd, now remember when those protests were happening, when those riots were happening, we had the National Guard, we had, the national emergency. It was a state of fucking emergency. But then fast forward to January 6th, we had an insurrection. That was just something I never thought I would see in America. That's probably the second thing I never thought I would see. This is like the year of first in the U.S. I never thought I would see a pandemic where we had to wear masks. That was a shock. But seeing an insurrection on the U.S. Capitol, these people were kicking down the doors, beating the cops, calling for the vice president to be hung, wanting to kill the Speaker of the House. This happened in America, and they want you to forget about it. It didn't happen. But when we had protests and riots about something that actually mattered, about real systemic racism, police brutality, things that really happened in reality, we had an insurrection based on a lie, a falsehood, the big lie. The premise that the election wasn't real, that it was stolen. And these are the people that voted for Donald Trump. So, I mean, if you didn't think before that it was a cult, what do you think now? Like, seriously, honestly, I believe in democracy. I believe in difference of opinion, different ideas. I think the best democracies have a multitude of factions and, you know, different groups represent. You want representation from all sides. You never want one viewpoint. So I believe we do need Democrats and Republicans, but at the same time, we need people who live in reality. We don't need conspiracy theorists. We don't need racists, bigots, all of those things. You know what I mean? We don't need white rage. None of that belongs in Congress. And lately, these people that are getting elected, they're like activists, really. Extremists, if you think about it. So just pay attention to what's going on. I mean, you guys always say, you know, this and that, and do your research. Are you guys doing any research? Because honestly, this, like, before our eyes, is just has become a joke. You know what I mean? It really started when Obama got elected. If you look back, when the guy, I think it was the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, he called President Obama a liar. He said, "You lied," or something like that. And it was like, everyone clutched their pearls, like, what? Like, this is not what happened. And that was the start. That's when everything started to unravel. That's when it was like, the panic was setting in, like, holy shit, they elected a black man. Like, our power is disappearing. We're not, you know, things are changing. And so from there, it's just been a ripple effect, a snowball, a domino. And all of that led up to the chaos that you see now. So it starts from there, one outburst, you know, disrespecting the sitting president, to electing a president who is a conspiracy theorist. And he has a cult following, and they come and do an insurrection on the U.S. Capitol. So ask yourself, what's next? What's next? It's up to you to, you know, get to the polls and do something about it, because it can only go downhill. You know, we saw what happens when you give those type of people a voice, when you amplify that hate and that kind of, you know, bigotry and whatnot. That's what happens. It's like giving a bullhorn. You might as well give David Duke a bullhorn and see what happens, you know? So get out and vote. Is very important, you know. Don't think just because the presidential election happened is over, oh, we can wait till next. No, that's probably the biggest mistakes that one of the biggest mistakes people make when it comes to politics. We only get excited and active every 4 years for the presidential election, but in between that, we had the midterms. So we need to keep the same energy, and if we really want progress and change to happen, get some Democrats in there for the Senate and the Congress, and we can really see change. Because we saw 2008, 2012, we had the right president, but we didn't have the right Congress, so nothing got done. It was gridlock. So if you want gridlock again, then they can say, well, he didn't do nothing for you guys. You had a black vice president. She didn't do nothing for you guys. If you don't give them the tools to get their agenda done and do their job, then it's all for nothing. So yeah. And that's it for now. I'm just tipping back in, getting my feet wet again. I'm making my business to stay in front of the camera a little more. So I'll be back. It won't be another, I guess, 9 months it was. It won't be 9 months. I'm trying to come back to you guys later this week because I have a whole list of shit that I want to address that we've missed out on. But I think that covers what I wanted to get into today: the election, the big lie, and the insurrection. Yeah, I covered everything I wanted to cover without even looking at my notes. So, yeah. So until next time, stay safe. Keep your mental health in check.